Hey guys, today's story is about a disruptive player. So we just found this subreddit today, and as a short-time player, only been playing for about a year, I have a few stories. But my favorite is the one I'll be sharing today about a really fun campaign and my first ever truly disruptive player. So this started about a year ago. I got a new job, and I was meeting with people in my workplace that enjoyed D&D. I had never played it before, but I got really hyped up about it. I've been an actor since the 6th grade, and I am now in college, and so role-playing comes very naturally to me. I've been doing it online since I was very young. So I met up with this very nice guy, the DM. He shares quite a few interests with me, and we become pretty good friends. He tells me he's starting a new Discord campaign with a few of my coworkers, and I agree to give it a shot. It was a historical setting, with the main plot seeming to take place around Marco Polo and the war with the Huns, I believe. It was still mixed in with fantastical elements, such as mythical creatures and fantasy races such as the elves. But the main plot was surrounding real world war and joining certain sides. Now here's the cast. Myself as a human cleric with a beautiful backstory involving the Asian gods Amaterasu and Yomi. For the story, we'll call my character Amaterasu. My female friend. For most of the game, she appeared as a human. I forgot her class, to be honest, but I would later come to find that was not actually the case. It's not relevant to the story, so we'll say a human. Let's say her name is Faye. My male friend, the disruptive player. He played a wizard with a magical book that had wizard spells and cleric spells, I believe. I'm not sure if he always had them, but I know they popped up only after all the players began to surface. Let's call him Carl. Now the campaign started off fine. Everyone got along, and our role-playing was smooth. We never metagamed, and our stories all blended well together. We had a few characters join and leave along that time, but it was essentially just us three with the DM, who had Marco Polo most of the time. Basically, the story went that we had to make names for ourselves pre-story, and were invited by Marco Polo to join the war efforts. I was a renowned healer and noted pacifist. Faye was a folk hero and wished to use his talents for good. Carl was an alchemist wizard who thoroughly enjoyed explosives and whatnot. It sounds like he was a murder hobo, but he wasn't, at least at first. His character had a good reason to love explosions. Once we all joined together, we started tasks that helped Marco Polo's team of mercenaries prevent enemy forces from advancing in the west. And there was also small raider camps along the river we settled at. This went on for a while without any problems, but that didn't last forever. I believe the first time I started seeing a problem was when we got tasked by Polo to find a ranger who had been captured by the enemy and free him. When we got there, the party wanted to just sneak in, get the guy out, and leave. But my character, the pacifist who didn't like war, wanted to free all the prisoners, since they were mostly unwilling victims to the Huns. So we devised a plan to cause mass panic using Carl's explosions, and Faye's character, who excelled at sneaking, would join Amaterasu in freeing the prisoners. We had help, of course, but it eventually boiled down to just us three. Everything went well without a hitch, and after the session was over, I was the new silent leader. The DM didn't plan it, and it was never something spoken, but we all just came to an understanding that I would lead our actions. Everyone was fine with it, except Carl. I understand his jealousy. He had a well-rounded character, and played him well, but he wasn't made to lead. No one likes to be just ignored, but sometimes it comes down to who happens to be in the right place at the right time. Characters now asked Amaterasu what the plan was, and most of what I said went. Although noticing his frustration, I made sure to try and ask his opinion so he didn't feel left out. Come a few days later, and we eventually had a game where Carl had to leave early. We were already about an hour in, and we had just started to actually go with our plans. And he had to leave for unforeseen circumstances. We asked if he wanted us to pause for him, and he said he was fine if we continue as long as his character wasn't used, and if he was, it was only for bombs. We didn't want to disrespect his character, so we counted him there, but we never roleplayed him. The events that happened tell us that we found a ship with many cannons, and I eventually started captaining the ship. We got to a heavily defended fortress, and instead of trying to sneak in, I just commanded the men and women aboard to use the cannons to tear down the walls. After the session, I became the captain of the ship. Really quickly, I just want to apologize if it seems like I'm hyping up my character too much. That's not my intention. I just need to show what makes Carl angry, and for relatively good reason. I'll also take the time to explain what happens to Carl during this time. He stopped roleplaying as much in terms of what his character wanted, and he started becoming a power-hungry player. He also did one-on-one sessions with the DM so he could level up faster. He also tried to do harder missions that yield greater experience. And by no fault of anyone except the dice, on an event roll with a D100, he ended up rolling a perfect 100. That granted him a personal genie companion. The genie is a high level and can do a lot. He's a powerhouse, and the DM allowed Carl to use him frequently, much like an Aladdin genie type. No one had any quarrel with this, but the main thing is that Carl started acting real defensive, and started doing things to stop me specifically from doing anything. He argued with Amaterasu, and he talked a lot of smack, like,
"Oh, my character could destroy yours in a matter of seconds."
Yes, I kid you not, he said that exact thing. And he started acting really aggressive, both in-game and out-of-game. We'd be working, and mind you, it's the service industry, so we don't get time to just talk to each other. And while I'm busy helping guests, he'd try and stop me and talk about his character and how powerful he was. It got on everyone's nerves. The DM wasn't as angry as he was disappointed, and he talked with Carl, from what I heard. It was very laid back and casual, and I can understand that the DM didn't push hard. It's not in his personality to push someone down for something. However, after it continuing, the DM decided he would kill his character. It was at a time where Carl did a risky maneuver, and while the odds were slightly stacked against him, it was still a natural enough death. And Carl didn't get angry about it. He just made frequent jokes, wondering when his luck would run out. We thought it was over. And he would make a new character, and the personality traits of the character would allow for a better synchronized gameplay. However, I was dead wrong. He created a 7.5-foot tall Minotaur character with max strength, smithing tools, and something he added in himself, a scroll of the 3,000 wars he's fought in. The DM was angry that he was creating backstory for a game that he didn't run, and the rest of us were angry because he purely built the character to be strong. As a level 7 character who has somehow fought in 3,000 wars, it didn't make sense. Anyway, the game started getting less frequent. We went from a game a week to once every other week to once a month, and so on. Eventually, after talking with Carl again, and seeing no change in his actions, we decided to end the campaign altogether, which was devastating. It was really going places, and I was excited for Amaterasu's future, and we ended it at a place right when I found out Faye's character was actually using a constant disguise, and he was actually a beast race. We initiated PvP, and we were actually having a lot of fun. I should note, we weren't fighting because Faye and I didn't like each other. We planned the fight because our characters would have fought in these circumstances. But Carl kept saying things like,
"Oh, my character will just take a nice long stroll by the beach."
out of nowhere, while Faye and I were fighting. The DM kept asking, "Is there anything you want to do, Carl?" And he would answer,
"Yeah, I want to watch the fight, and I want to find some random stranger and just start bench pressing them."
That's the kind of player he became. When the action was somewhere else, he brought attention to himself doing something that was distracting, and had nothing to do with what was going on. And it just showed off his character strength. Well guys, all honesty, this didn't get too bad. I can't imagine that the employer would be too happy if the guy would keep shirking his duties to try to shoot the breeze with the guy about his character and brag about it, but honestly, it just seems like him being a nuisance, not really all that horrible. There are a few things that the DM could have done better as well, like him playing a 7.5 foot tall Minotaur with maxed out strength, but I digress. This was a rather tame one. But in any case, guys, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you have a story that you'd like me to narrate, let me know. And as always, thanks for watching, and have a good one.